The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to On Cue. I'm Stephanie Passingham. On today's show, host Eric Olson and I team up. We get a chance to visit with some members of the Austin Trapshoot Club. Representative Jeanne Poppe drops by to review state policy action, and Steven Kime gives us a Vision 2020 update. I hope you'll stay with us. On Cue is coming up next.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
Coach Doug Bathke and competitor Owen Grunwald start us off today. They are involved in what is officially called the Austin High School Clay Target Team, and this is a new organization. Welcome to the program. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So tell us a little bit about how this got started, because this is fairly new for Austin.
Right, we started last spring. Originally there was Paul Jenkins, Sue Thorpe, and myself kind of got together and said this is something we want to try to achieve and do. So from there it was contact people in the state high school league, get our ducks in a row, and then proceed to go through principal, superintendent, school board, and present the program, have informational meetings for the parents, for the shooters, and just from there on.
And away you went.
And away we went.
And I understand we were talking earlier, this is an activity, not necessarily a sport.
Correct.
But what makes it different and the same? You said kids can still letter.
Yes.
So how does that work within the school system?
Right now, it's statewide, it's classified as an activity. Okay. So it's basically run as any other activity in school. Scholastic achievement, everything is part of it. It's just the classification right now, the high school league has not officially taken it on as a sport. And whether they do or not, it doesn't really matter, because the student shooter can letter and do the same thing that a official sport would be. So that part of it doesn't matter.
All right. And so you have been competing, and last spring was the first kind of season, is that right?
Yes.
So tell us about your first experience with this activity.
Well, I wasn't really sure about how it was going to go at first, and it turned out to be, I really enjoyed it and kind of fell in love with doing it. And
you obviously already had handled a firearm, or what do you call the guns that you use? What's the terminology? What kind of equipment is it?
We use shotguns.
Shotguns, okay. And I understand they're single shot. Is that right? And is that required in this sport, or is it because of the age of the participants?
It can be. The trap shooting is the way we shoot it with this sport. All the kids are shooting one shot at the 16-yard line. There's 5 students on a squad, 5 stations, so they shoot 5 shots from station 1, 5 from 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So really, a lot of your specialized trap guns are single shot. But there is doubles trap in the sport too, but we don't do that at this level. Okay.
And for those who may not be as familiar with this activity, what's the difference between trap shooting and skeet shooting, or any other kind of target shooting?
On trap, the sport originally started where the reason it was called trap shooting was it was 150 years ago, it was live bird shooting, and they were in a trap box, and that was released. When you're trap shooting, all the targets come out of what is called a trap house. You're at 16 yards, everybody shoots, all your targets are going away from you. Different angles, and different elevation, but they're all going away. In skeet, you have multiple target, and it's coming at you, going away from you, so it's the angle and the speed and the layout of the field is what's different between trap and skeet.
And you mentioned that trap, it gets progressively harder as you advance in the competition.
Yeah, because we start out with our shooters at 16 yards, but you can go back to 27 yards. So that increases the difficulty of the sport. So as you advance, or tournaments and stuff, they will back them up. So it gets a little tougher.
All right. Oh, and how many students are out for the team? What's your team look like?
Well, our spring team last year, we had around 60 students shooting, and then this fall we had I think 40, right around 45.
All ages, give me a sense of the team. What's the camaraderie like? Who are the kids that are on it?
Everybody from 6th grade up to 12th can shoot.
So you can start at 6th grade?
Yep.
Okay. And so that's somebody who's 12 or 13? 12. Okay. So how many times during the course of a season do you compete?
I think we had 6 weeks of competition.
This in the fall season,
We had
8
6.
in the spring.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And you were mentioning that you actually tend to compete at this point because you guys are, you said 4A, right? Describe how that works.
It's different than your traditional sport in school where your conference is composed of the same teams.
Right.
Our conference is based on team size solely. So if our fall team had 40 shooters on it, we're in comparative size teams. Now, in the spring, if we have 65, 70, we may be in a different conference, you know, and it depends on...
Is that considered big? Pretty good turnout?
Yeah, we're probably one of the top in numbers in the state.
And that's what 4A means. You're competing against the largest other clubs in the state.
Yep. And it goes by team size, not school size.
Not school size. So who are you competing against?
We had Lakeville,
Hastings, I'm sure, would be in there. And like I say, it'll change spring to fall.
From spring to
it's
fall.
kind of, you never really know who you're...
Yeah, it kind of changes up a little bit.
Yep. I was surprised to hear that many of your teams are in the Twin Cities. I always think of shooting sports as being primarily a rural-dominated activity, but you said there's quite a few metro
it basically
teams.
came out of the metro area, and then now it's spreading to other parts of the state. Now, a lot of the teams that are starting are in the rural areas, and primarily a lot of those are smaller schools. So the availability of places to shoot would dictate, you know, how schools could get on board with it and you know, be able to compete, you know, which in order to compete, our kids never have to travel. They shoot here, all the scores are sent over the computer.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't have a local club to shoot at, you will have to take your shooters to some facilities, because we also host several teams from Iowa come up and shoot here too with us.
Okay, all right.
So
you're not on a bus traveling to other locations?
No, there's no travel. The only time is if we do have entered the team in a tournament somewhere where they want to go. And normally we hosted the tournament last year here, so they didn't even have to travel for that.
Nice.
So otherwise the only time they traveled was to the state.
To the state tournament. And you are captain, right? Or
Yes.
captain this year? What year are you in school?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior, okay. All right, and so tell us how the season went.
We actually had a really good season this fall. We had 3 shooters in the top 25 in the state, and they were in the top 5 for the conference. We ended in first in our conference.
Excellent, congratulations.
Thank you.
So how do you prepare for an upcoming season then? You know, because as you said, it may completely change who you compete against. How do you get your team ready to do well?
It's pretty much just keeping people focused during practice, and a lot of it's a mental game once you get all the basics figured out. So,
how about you, Coach? What are some of the tricks that you use to
Well,
to help
actually,
kids?
we start planning already in January, February for the practice season that'll start in March, because we'll have new shooters coming on board that we'll have to make sure will have their hunter safety. We'll have the schedule laid out. We'll be doing fundraisers. So we don't get a very big break between just ending a couple weeks ago to by January we'll already start with informational meetings, with getting the kids signed up, getting them through the process of signing up with the league. And so by I think the second week of March or whatever, we'll be probably starting our practice weeks.
All right. If there's someone that decides that they are interested in finding out a little bit more about what you guys are doing, or maybe trying out the activity, how would they? Do you guys have a website? How do they get a hold of you? Do they do it through the school? Where can they go for more information?
All of the above. At the school, just stop into the activities director's office. They have all the information. That's probably the best. Otherwise, they have a website too, and word of mouth. A lot of kids are on the team. There's a lot of talk or whatever. But
sure, talking with your friends.
Track us down.
Owen's out in the hallway recruiting kids.
Yep. Yep. And after we've gone through 1 year now, the participants on the team will be able to answer a lot of questions
Sure.
where, a lot of kids don't run to the office to ask a question, where if one of their buddies says, well, hey, I did this, and
Right.
it's a lot easier,
a
but
lot of fun.
they'll be on the website, and we'll be glad to anybody that's 12 years old through 12th grade.
And you said boys and girls compete on the same
Absolutely.
team, so
Yep.
either
Yeah,
are
yep.
eligible for the.
In fact, we would like to see more girl shooters on the team. We have some, and they do a very good job, but there's always room for more.
Always room for more.
Always room
Great.
for more.
Owen Grunwald, Doug Bathke, thank you so much for coming on the program and telling us about this new activity that's available here in Austin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, stay tuned for more On Cue. Eric is going to be joined by Representative Jeanne Poppe next.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ-TV website, ksmq.org.
Welcome back. Recently, the Minnesota House of Representatives Capital Investment Committee visited our area, and today I'm pleased to welcome Representative Jeanne Poppe, who can tell us more about the work of this committee and its importance to our region. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Talk about this meeting and why it's important that it happened in our region. What do we hope to gain from it?
Sure. Well, the House Capital Investment Committee is the group that will initially create what the bonding bill will look like from the House. Certainly, Representative Alice Hausman from St. Paul has been on the bonding committee for a number of years, and when the Democrats are in charge of the legislature of the House, then she's been the chair in the past and is again the chair this time around. So they came and visited and were able to tour in southern Minnesota, as they are also doing throughout the entire state. But when they came through our district, we were able to look at a retention pond and to talk about the importance of keeping habitat for our wildlife, but also as flood mitigation and flood reduction plans. Because in the past, we've spent a lot of time talking about how we remove houses or how we build flood walls or do berms or different things. But this was a different look at what we're doing with regards to flood mitigation and flood reduction.
So is this separate from highways and that kind of thing? When I think of capital,
Sure.
I think of building things.
And absolutely, the capital investment is all of those things. So anything that the state is a part of, so it can be roads and bridges, it can be Riverland Community College, for instance, is a state institution. It could be a state Academy of the Deaf, different places like that. But it also is bike trails and flood mitigation. It's the state agencies like Department of Natural Resources. And what they'd be looking at is trying to reap some benefit and get some money to be able to help to fund the projects.
Have you heard anything on another topic, just since we've been up and running with the health care enrollment, how it's been going in Minnesota? Have you heard anything on that?
Well, there have been some glitches with it, but certainly people are encouraged to go online, contact me if they have questions about it, or contact others. But I think that certainly we have a Minnesota product which is better than the federal product, and that's one thing that we really wanted to have happen, that as the Democrats in charge of the House and Senate this year, it was really important for us to have a Minnesota grown product because we have different, kind of a good sense of what we need for healthcare here. And we have a lot of, certainly with Mayo Clinic and Fairview and all of the big names, they have been engaged in what needs to happen, as well as with the insurance people.
So we have to, because in Minnesota, a lot of times we get things done, and regardless of a federal oversight, but this is kind of a pass-through thing. So you're telling me if the federal folks are having a problem, it is going to impact Minnesota. We can't just bypass them and do it the right way.
Well, we're trying to do it the right way. We're trying to make sure that people are going through the Minnesota, the MNsure, and make sure that that's going okay. And I think for the most part, people are finding that it's successful. It's just, when we talk about healthcare, it's a big deal. People are concerned about. And many times, if you get it from your employer, you're not necessarily spending much time trying to analyze the difference between different products. And that's really what this is designed to do, is to help people to understand that this product might offer these kinds of things, this product will have this. So it's helping us all to be better consumers. And that's what MNsure really is designed to do, is help those that are in the market for insurance to become better consumers, better at understanding what their needs are and what they should be looking for. So it's a learning process for everyone.
Including, what about me, or a small business owner?
Sure.
Is that a learning thing, to learn whether that's right for my employees?
Oh, absolutely, really? Yes. Small businesses can as well get involved. And I know that if people are wondering about that or trying to figure that out, there are certainly people available to help.
Okay. Other things, the state of the economy, besides the healthcare website and the capital committee that you're here on, what does it look like in Minnesota these days for the economy? How are we doing?
Well, again, our trajectory is going up. We have lower unemployment and higher job rate. We have more people who are engaged in doing what they should be doing to be useful taxpayers. They are finding employment and doing that. That's unfortunately not across the board. Not everyone's been able to find employment, but certainly a much brighter picture than it was from a number of years ago. And I think our schools are doing well. Certainly, we've been able to. You see that in our economy. We've gained more money, so we're able to pay back the school shift at a much larger rate. We just have a little bit left to pay off our schools from what we borrowed a number of years ago. So doing that also will help locally our economy. We're a very strong ag sector economy.
Well, I was going to ask you that, with your experience in ag at the state level as a chair, we hear rumblings about, let's reestablish ourselves in southern Minnesota as an ag center, not only as a producer, but value added and as an educator in ag. Do you think that's around the corner?
I'm glad you asked that, Eric, because absolutely I think that's around the corner. I serve on the MALC board, and that's the Ag Education Leadership Council in the state. Senator Sparks and I are co-chairs of that. And that is, it's just exciting to see how much agriculture is in everything and how strong the K-12 ag educators are, mostly in the senior high level. They are educating our students, and it's everything from agronomy to fashion and fabric, and what those different things are. People are 20% of our sector, of our economic sector, is agriculture, and you can find a job in agriculture. And if you are interested in being a teacher, ag education is the place to be, because they're always finding that they have a shortage of ag educators, and for that growth to happen, they need to have the ag educators to be able to fill those positions.
And we're not talking, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not talking about ag educators to teach people how to be a farmer, because that is sometimes problematic for young people, just from what I read the stories about, that, gee, I'd like to be a farmer, but I can't afford, unless you have a family connection or some access to land, because the farms are so large, you can't get into that business.
Oftentimes it's quite expensive, to purchase a farm and to be a beginning farmer. There are programs for beginning farmers, and you can kind of help with that. But again, when you talk about agriculture or ag education or ag business, they are learning everything from economic, what are the economic factors that make for a good decision with regards to what they're going to do. It's just everything. It's just so many things, and that's what's impressive, I think, about farmers today are not just tilling the soil and making sure that they're growing something. They have to understand climate conditions and whether or not the market is ready for their product and how they're going to market their product. and transport their product, and are they going to be just locally grown and locally sharing their product, or are they going to be global? Are they going to go on the, it's unbelievable. My concerns is that the University of Minnesota is the only place in Minnesota to go to be an ag educator right now, and they have a very, very, very small number of students that they accept into that. And I've been kind of on the bandwagon to say that needs to change. Either they need to increase the numbers that they accept, or we start looking through MnSCU to see where we can have ag education so we can grow those teachers. So that
where would be a good spot?
I think we can start at Riverland. But I would say, Southwest Minnesota State University in Marshall, that would be, to me, an ideal place. We need to start thinking about that, because it is a market that we should be putting students into.
And Dr. Adewaligan, the new president of Riverland, of course, his background, his research background is in agriculture.
Absolutely.
So that's heartening that you have somebody who really has an up-to-date knowledge.
Absolutely, it's very exciting for us.
Well, Representative Poppe, thanks so much for joining us.
It was great, Eric. Thank you.
You're welcome anytime. Come back when you have more things to talk about.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. And we'll be right back with our Vision 2020 update. Don't go away.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org. On Cue's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
It's time now for our Vision 2020 segment. Steve Kime from the Bike Walk Trail System Committee is here. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thanks for having me.
And you and your group, your team members, have been busy on something called Safe Routes to Schools. The Safe Route to Schools team. What's that all about? What's going on?
We have. A very good project. Way back when we first started talking about our bike trails and things, and safety came up so many times, the word safety. So this was a great opportunity, and it is a grant from MnDOT, and it's not a monetary grant per se. It's a grant to assist with planning safe routes to schools. And what that means is, first step is we put together a Safe Routes to School team locally. Includes school administrators, teachers, counselors, law enforcement, parents. And so we're working on that. We had our first kickoff meeting just recently. Met with the MnDOT consultants and folks, and then spent 2 days basically doing audits and watching at the schools, the dismissal and the entrance into the schools.
Like auditing, like each facility, how kids get to the building, where they ride their bikes, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Kind of unique. We were able to get the grant for all of our elementary schools and Ellis and Holton. So we're looking at all of them.
So these specialists take a look at the patterns, and then we'll look at it and say, how can we make this safer?
Correct. We were there at dismissal time I was at, and it's amazing. The students all exit the building, they're watching the busing patterns, they're watching the parent pickup patterns, where kids walk, where they go on the sidewalk, where they park, where their bikes are parked in connection with the school, all kinds of things taken into consideration. And then they took lots of pictures to kind of document that, to keep that straight. And they will go back and put that all together and come back with information for us. There will be surveys that will be passed out to parents, likely coming up soon also. But
and then at some point, like some kind of special, here's where we recommend bike traffic.
Exactly. Probably next spring.
Okay.
We will get a report back with recommendations from that group. And then it actually is a great project because it positions us to be, I'll say, eligible for obtaining grant money to actually implement them, these suggestions.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And it's not really to identify, we didn't have a problem, I don't think, with bike safety, or was it identified as an issue?
Not really an issue, I think, but if talk to the teacher or the principals, they'll tell you what some areas of concern might be. So I think there's things that could be improved, I think is what, we're fortunate we haven't had any incidents. That's good. But we want to ensure that we keep that record.
And we're fortunate too, I think, that we have a community where kids can bike to school and they can get there fairly safely and just have to make sure they get all the way safely.
Right. Ideally, you know, we have great trails. To integrate our trails into the whole you know, connections around town would be a perfect solution. And you know, winter time, it puts a kind of kibosh on things as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
I'm not a winter bicyclist. Some of my friends are, and we have a joke about that. Some of them ride on plowed roads only. So I try to shy away from the cold weather riding myself.
All right. Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for your work.
Very good. Thank you for having us.
You betcha. And that'll do it for this edition of On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. See you next time.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.